So the first item is item 6, which is, so I will deal with item 5, but I will deal with it as we go along. So item 6 is public consultation on, well, the first part of this, on adoption of sport, recreation and community facility and recreation pitch strategies, and the only person who is put down to speak is Councillor Kondaka.
Are you going to present the item first?
No, I'm going to do it this way because of the number of people in the room, Councillor, to be fair to them. So if you wish to sit at the table...
All stand?
No, sit at the table, please, as is normal practice. If I just explain to people, you have 3 minutes to speak. It's not a question and answer session. Full council, you can ask questions, but at Cabinet you just speak, if you wish, on your views on the actual item. So the 3 minutes is timed, so Councillor Kondaka.
Thank you, Chair. It's absolutely dreadful the amount of consultation we've had on this playing pitch strategy. This is tied in with the borough plan. It's been secret for the last few years, this playing pitch strategy, and reading the notes, it seems to have been developed by 5 Labour councillors talking to consultants. Clearly, the playing pitch strategy is there to provide playing pitches and facilities tied in with development. But unfortunately, we've approved around 4,000 homes already, particularly in Wellington, the Long Shoot, etc. So they won't get any money towards development. And unfortunately, places like Camp Hill and some of the northern areas of the borough also don't seem to be getting much. We have a map in the infrastructure plan which shows how the borough has been divided in half. So there's a north half and a south half. This map seems to have been gerrymandered to put the developments in Arbury and Gypsy Lane in the south of the borough, therefore allowing funds to be developed and pushed into various pet parks and pet things in Bedworth. And it really is a rotten playing pitch strategy. We haven't had equal access in all areas of the borough. We should have actually had more discussions in places like Wellington and St Nicholas, where we have 4,500 homes planned, as to what sports facilities we get. We should have been talking to the rugby clubs and the football clubs and things exclusively to start with, where the developments were taking place. Whereas this seems to be a plan to develop in the north of the borough, out at Bedworth Woodlands, all over the place, but then move the money into certain councillors' pet areas. It is really shocking how poor the consultation on this playing pitch strategy is, and it's another part of this corrupt borough process. We have not had a proper debate on where playing pitches are, and we've not had equal access. There is not a single Conservative or Green councillor, it seems, being consulted about the playing pitch strategy. It seems to be a strategy to take money from some areas where the development is and spend it in your favourite areas. And that's what I've got to say, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Councillor Kondaka? Thank you very much, then, Councillor. Right, Councillor Lloyd, can I ask you to present the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This report provides an update to Cabinet on the completed community sports and facility and playing pitch strategies that are already for adoption. The strategies have been undertaken by external consultants as part of the evidence for the borough plan, and also to assess the leisure and the pitch portfolio within the borough. These 2 documents have been externally consulted upon by Sport England and several national governing bodies of sport, and have followed the Sport England guidelines for such strategies. The Borough Council Planning Policy team have been working with a small group of internal officers, have been working on the above strategies over the past several months. These strategies, once adopted, will assist with the future evidence for not only the borough plan, but also to seek SIL and developers' contributions from any new housing developments. The formal adoption of the strategies are in conjunction with the borough plan are required in order to evidence and negate with the future housing developers on what contributions they pay to meet the borough's leisure needs. The borough strategy provides an action plan that summarises the findings of the data and the evidence collected This will enable us to work towards delivering the priorities in the plan over the next 16 years, whilst meeting the changing environmental and leisure provision across the whole of the borough. Attached to the report are four appendices, two appendices A and B are the executive summaries of the strategies. Appendix C and D highlight the main shortfalls in provision and suggest sites and areas that could support the borough's shortfall in going forward in the working in partnership. With over 50% of government cuts in the budget, we have to find new ways in stretching the money that we already have, whilst updating existing sporting facilities, developing new ones and still delivering a similar level of sporting opportunities within the borough. And these strategies offer the options to do this. Members are asked to adopt these two strategies and the summary action plans highlighted in the main development areas of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council to work towards the delivering of them. In answer to the previous questions, there has been consultation with sport.
Not questions, don't ask questions.
Comments. There has been considerable consultation with the sporting organisations throughout the borough, and a cabinet working. What I'm going to suggest is that a cabinet working party of 8 members be established, chaired by myself or the relevant cabinet member, to explore the options arising from the two strategies and develop detailed proposals for approval by cabinet. So members are asked to approve the two strategies, and in according to my last comments as well, to put forward a cabinet working group that can actually work through these extremely important documents. So hopefully that has answered all the questions, Chair.
The points.
Points.
I just want to make it clear, so we can't ask questions at Cabinet, we cannot hold council. So, first of all, is that seconded? Now, you didn't suggest any makeup of the...
Yeah, the makeup of the working group, in line with the constitution, would be 6 members from the controlling group and 2 from the official opposition.
Is that seconded? That's part of what you're suggesting. Any comments on that? Those in favour then? That's unanimous. The adoption of the borough plan will be after consultation, much later on. But I have a list of speakers here, which starts with, again, Councillor Kondoka.
Thank you very much, Chair. This borough is not an affluent borough. The population grew 145 in 2015. On average, we build 285 homes per year. Some year we build 200, some year we build 400. We do not build 1,200 homes, which is what this plan is suggesting. This plan is based upon lunacy. We have government statistics that say this borough over 20 years will grow by just over 6,000 homes. That estimate is continuously being revised down as we lose more and more working age population. The population of this borough is dropping. 500 people of working age and growing about 600 people of retirement age. We are hemorrhaging working age population. And we have 4,000 homes with permission to be built or on site with outline permissions or allocations. They're only building 400 a year because there is not the demand. This crazy plan, and it is totally crazy to build almost 14,000 homes, won't result in building 14,000 homes. It will result in building 6,000 homes on the countryside and nothing on the brownfield sites. The developers will go and build in Wellington, St Nicholas, Ganny Common, Bedworth Woodlands. They'll pick all the nice sites to build on, and we will have a dreadfully unbalanced and unsustainable town. This plan is rotten, totally rotten, and 6 weeks consultation is far too little. On Friday, it seems you're going to sign a memorandum of understanding to sign us up to these figures with the other councils. This is wrong. We should have a proper debate on housing numbers. I challenge the portfolio holder, the leader, during this 6 weeks consultation to have a proper, honest debate with me, rather than sitting there looking glum. We need to discuss these figures. We need to pull out the stats, look at the graphs, and be honest. This town is not doing well. We don't have a time machine, so we can't be building 700 houses in the last 6 years. And going forward, to catch up with that target, we cannot build 1,200 homes. We haven't got £49 million to build all the roads that are needed for this plan. And there's no infrastructure, there's no new railway stations. There is so little money in this plan because we've already allowed 4,000 homes to be built. This is absolutely killing our town. We need a sensible plan based upon a sensible target of around 6,000 homes, and we need a plan based on jobs. We're losing all our young people because this council is fixated on building homes rather than building a community and a prosperous borough. A prosperous borough involves keeping the young people here, having jobs and having a prosperous town centre. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions to Councillor Kondaka? Thank you very much. Michelle Kondaka.
Thank you. I mean, some of the things I want to say are not really related to the borough plan, but just about this whole process of how it's come to this consultation discussion here at Cabinet. Suddenly there's no call-in, it's a matter of urgency. Why is it suddenly urgent? We've been waiting 10 years or so for this plan, so why couldn't we have a few weeks where it could actually be call-in if approved? Recommendations are to approve or to approve with amendments. So you're going to approve it one way or the other and things. And then later on it says if approved by Cabinet, but you're already going to approve it because your options are to approve or to approve. The consultation will start from next Monday, and as from next Tuesday you're going to have meetings for the people, drop-ins and such like. How do you propose to tell people? We don't have the local paper until next Wednesday. The posters and things, it says in your timetable, notices for community boards, 1 week for printing and delivery. The large JC Deco posters in town, 2 to 2.5 weeks. So I can only assume either those have already been printed on the assumption that this was all going to happen anyway, or these are not going to have anything about the meetings that people are supposed to find out more about and it's a huge document. I mean, I haven't had time to read a fraction of it, and that's just in the past week. So people need time to read at least some of the papers so that they know what questions they want to ask at these drop-ins. There are a few positive words in the proposed plan, but it's 10 years too late. And some of the things are absolutely bonkers. It's definitely not written by anyone who knows Nuneaton and Bedworth. I mean, since when has Abbey Green been a local district centre for the whole area which you designate HSG1, the north of Nuneaton, which stretches from Weddington to the Long Shoot? Abbey Green! You can't get to Abbey Green. It might, as the crow flies, yes, but unfortunately we are not crows. It's mad. I also want to know what's happening. I know you're not going to answer this because you don't answer questions, but what's happening about the sill? That was consulted in 2015 when this last went to consultation. Nothing. And when I say about 10 years too late, one of the things in the infrastructure saying Pingles Centre, it's not going to be adequate, not going to be big enough, not got enough facilities and what have you. To me, Pingles is a new building. So, Derbyshire. Not even in Warwickshire, never mind our bit of Warwickshire. It's mad.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Kundaka. Any questions? No, thank you very much. Lavinia Kickham.
Evening. I'm relating to HG9 and the existing, looking at the planning system. So first of all, we are adjacent landowners to HG9 development and we've had no notification of this. This development itself encloses us in and we've had no detail in the proposal about our right of access over the existing land to actually get to our land itself. So it's really, really important that as well there's a bridleway which goes from Crow Hill Road and adjacent onto the into Hinckley, Leicestershire. Again, there's nothing within the proposals. It's great to see that you're updating the footpaths and the cycleways, but it's really important there is a public bridleway within that and it's not been noted. Adjacent to the land obviously is our golf course, and what you are proposing, you're going directly onto arable fields, but actually that is incorrect within your proposal. You actually are going onto livestock area. So the screening and everything that's to the north east of this proposal is not existing within your plan. So certainly, for myself, the access onto the roads from Crow Hill and the two within there and onto Golf Drive and Wentworth Drive, I foresee if we're building 620 odd houses, there's going to be over 1,200 cars going through those main street. I would like to know, be reassured as a resident and a landowner there, that we've actually taken demonstration and looked at the traffic maintenance. 2 years ago, you tried to put through a leaf road and that got dismissed. Does that mean then, because if you're going to propose this, it means that that relief road is going to go from the long shoot right the way through into Golf Drive again? Clearly it's a residential area. So the developments off, for me, was, I see as also a financial contribution to the sites. 620 odd houses is actually going to need full schooling, education, and all I see is a financial contribution. Does that mean, again, you're going to split the proposal to developers so they actually don't have to put that infrastructure in place? And these are the things that are not answered within the borough plan itself. So for me, we've got to think about that more consideration before we actually agree to these proposals being made, not only to HG9 site, but actually to all the other sites as well, what is right for our community. Finally, it's greenbelt area. There is white area on the adjacent to Borkington Lane off Chetwynd Drive. That's not being considered. So I'd like to understand why we've taken greenbelt over white area and we've told residents that this house, this land could be built on. That certainly could be an option onto a main trunk road. So you're going through a residential housing estate to put these properties on, but actually on a main trunk road where people are existing and the land is classified as white area, white belt area, you're not actually looking at as a proposed area. And I find that actually very strange for yourselves. So it's just posing questions to yourselves as the committee before you actually make those decisions. Who's chosen that land for it to go on? And is it the right place for it to go on and the safety of the community? Thank you.
Could I just say before you, that in fact this is committee's cabinet is not making the decision today.
That's
this
fine.
is for consultation that people will be able to put forward.
Absolutely, and it's just about for you to consider that if there is a white belt area and it's been designated before in our plan, and the residents know about it, it's in the main area, then actually I think that should be into consideration of our proposals before making a go-ahead, which I wanted to make you aware of tonight.
And I'm sure that you can put that forward and your name will be down as a consultant. Tina Bass.
Okay, I've been a resident of the borough for nearly 40 years and strongly object to many aspects of the latest borough plan. I haven't read everything in detail, but enough to make me very, very concerned and very nervous. I've got 5 points to make. One, I feel the plan is incomplete despite its size, in that gypsy and traveller sites are no longer visible. The location of such sites is of huge importance to many local residents, particularly considering the number of incursions onto private and industrial land over the last year. Why are they no longer referred to? I would like the residents of this borough to consider those sites now as part of this plan and this process and not as some supplementary document somewhere further down the line. 2, the plan ignores overwhelming infrastructure problems. I think Councillor Poddickle's already touched on those. I could speak about current traffic problems all over the borough, but I'll concentrate on just one here, which is the double island at the junction of Lutterworth Road, Golf Drive and Wilkinson Lane. Building hundreds of houses at the end of Golf Drive is an appalling prospect, as the occupants of any new development would inevitably have to travel along Golf Drive to this congestion hotspot. The double island grinds to a standstill during morning and afternoon rush hours. I know, because I just came down here to get to this meeting this evening. And the possibility of more cars adding to the congestion is not a pleasant one. I would like the Golf Drive development to be abandoned completely, as the current road system can barely cope with the current level of traffic. 3. The new developments at the end of Golf Drive and Attleborough Fields were introduced after the infrastructure report entitled Strategic Transport Assessment Modelling Report August 2015, which means that these two developments in particular have not had experts in transportation assess their impact. Broadly based on this report, I can tell you that developments would add an extra car every 20 seconds at peak times based on the Gypsy Lane figures. Perhaps the planning committee do not want traffic experts to undertake a detailed assessment of the new developments, as the conclusions seem really obvious even to me as a lay person. 4. The Gypsy Lane development also presents traffic infrastructure problems. I travel to Coventry via that road. It is not only congested, but the junction at the end is extremely dangerous now, particularly for those turning right. I realise that plans have been made to alter the junction, but I am entirely unconvinced that this would alleviate all of the current problems, let alone any future ones. Also consider that in conjunction with the new Golf Drive development and the Attleborough Fields developments, the Gypsy Lane development leaves the road network in Wisestone creaking under the pressure. Has this been thought through properly? Because it really doesn't look like it to me, and that's just a cursory glance through this enormous document. 5. And furthermore, the new development seemed to have been gifted to Nuneaton by Coventry City Council, but without the borough gaining anything tangible in return, apart from increased traffic, increased pollution, increased noise and more concrete. Why on earth would anyone who cared about this borough agree to that? Thank you.
Could I ask you to just be a little, let people speak and let other people listen? Thank you. Barry Goss.
Thank you, Chair. Well, clearly there's a lot of effort gone into producing that enormous document, but to me, given the anomalies in it, it seems it must have been put together in a bit of a rushed fashion. It contains a hell of a lot of facts and data. To be honest, it contains little easily assimilated information. For instance, you take the public consultation, there were 477 responses detailed in pages 295 and 595. There's little analysis of the results. Page 282 refers to issues, with 32% related to policy NBBC. There's no further breakdown of the remaining 68%. Page 283 and 284 refer to how the issues have been addressed, with 10 main changes have been made. However, again, it gives no indication of how many of the representations have either been 1, action, 2, rejected, 3, noted, or 4, are still outstanding. So we've got no idea what progress you're making really in terms of public consultation. This needs to be included for future transparency in the future. Now, due to the sheer amount of the data, there's various topics, a lot of complexity in there. And other items need to be added in the future to assist the understanding of this proposal. In my view, as a minimum, it needs some form of pictorial route map showing how the various initiatives are aligned, how they're linked together, and how you expect them to progress. 2, you need a high-level plan with some decent timelines on it, showing critical path items and some key decision dates. There's nothing. 3, some detail of the proposed organisation and associated work breakdown structure for delivering this plan. So at the moment, I have no confidence that this council has any chance of delivering that plan. 2 final points. 1, section 9 refers to the town centres. I do not see anything that urgently addresses the dying or almost dead town centres. There's nothing in the short term, and it's not good enough. As part of that, can you confirm that the council has a positive strategy to drive out all independent weekends as part of this proposal? And finally, someone else picked one earlier, it is stated that the report will not be subject to calling, again on the grounds of urgency. Whose urgency? You know, do you want it right now or do you want it right? That's the key. So why is this? Thank you.
Any questions to Mr. Goss? Thank you, Mr. Goss. Councillor Goldman. isn't here.
She is here.
Oh, yes, I am.
Sorry.
Don't get off that line.
Sorry. Oh yeah, where do I start with this? I mean, as you can see, I've kind of had a little bit of a go at it, but there's an awful lot. Bit of a way to tell, isn't it? As you would probably anticipate, I've not prepared anything, so I'm just going to wing it. I have major issues with the absolute lack of anything based on infrastructure in this plan. Anything. I've asked for a map, I haven't got it yet. Arbery just seems to be getting pounded at the minute, absolutely pounded. We're getting rubbish traffic schemes with the Bermuda Bridge. We're getting all of this bump that nobody actually understands. I mean, it will take me a month to read through this and digest it and actually try and pick out anything relevant that needs further investigation. And God help us if it does need further investigation, because who's going to do it? I mean, look at it. You know, it repeats itself several times as well, which is something that's a bit of a waste of time. The council is positively engaging with all the relevant bodies during the plan making process. Really? I'd argue against that one. What have we got here? I mean, I just don't even know where to start with it. Work to address deprivation is taking place in Camp Hill, involving physical and socio-economic regeneration. That's brilliant, what you do for my ward when you put 1,500 houses in there and no roads. Great. One school, primary education school. Well, what about when they all grow up and leave primary education? Where are they going to go? Anybody thought of that one? Because it's not here. The infrastructure delivery plan, like I say, it is literally vaguer than vague as far as I can tell. There's nothing in there that bears any sort of meat or anything. You know, you can't put flesh on bones if you've got no bones, and your roads are your spine, and your infrastructure is your spine of your developments, and there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. I mean, a new distributor link road through the allocation will be provided to include primary access points on Heatham Road, Hazeldown, Walshingham Drive. Well, you're building a nice loop there, but where's it going? Is that assuming that the Bermuda Bridge is going to be open? Because it must do. Do you know something I don't? And again, employment land in the area. UPS. Well, UPS have got a car park now, because if the bridge opens, that's what's going to happen. And this, EMP4, was put forward as an alternative location for that car park, so we wouldn't have to take UPS land. And it was told at the planning committee that this borough had said that that land was too contaminated to build on. Yet we're looking here, and you want to build an industrial estate on it. An industrial estate with the site will deliver circa 9 hectares for employment uses, including parking that they weren't allowed to have to move because you said it was too contaminated. I mean, again, one thing for one and one thing for another, smoke and mirrors all the way along. Local centres. We're supposed to have a local centre down Bermuda Village. 7 years, we're still waiting for it. I mean, literally, it could go on.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Any questions, Councillor Gordon? Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. The final draft of the Borough Plan has been published and is already out of date. The plan threatens to build well over 13,000 houses across the borough, despite evidence presented by local residents and local representatives showing that demand is closer to 6,000 between now and 2031. The plan also predates the announcement that the UK is due to leave the single market due to our vote to leave the EU, and fails to take into account the almost certain drop in immigration into the UK from 2018-19 onwards. The plan also fails to provide vital infrastructure that will be needed with the proposed transition from being a predominantly rural borough in character to a mostly urban borough in character. Labour also seem to have surrendered to Coventry's demands to fill the green belts in between Bedworth and Coventry with overspill houses. And with regards to the woodlands area of Bedworth, Labour have finally admitted that the area is liable to flooding and has reduced housing numbers accordingly because of this.
but are still breaking their promise by wanting to bulldoze much of the woodlands surrounding the Nook to build 700 houses, which are 700 houses too many. The Labour councillors in this room have broken their promise to the people of Bedworth, and even worse, have betrayed their trust. Your constituents in Bedworth trusted you to keep your promises, and you betrayed them. No matter what happens in the final stages of the borough plan and the consultation, Bedworth people won't forget who stood up for them and who didn't. That's all I have to say.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. This borough plan, a decade in making, seems to be built on two fundamental premises: hope and surrender. Hope, because you're hoping that all your wild assertions and plans for the future and guesstimates will come true. And surrender, because you have surrendered this borough, its green spaces and its habitats and local environs to Coventry. How is it fair that we have accepted to take half of Coventry's overspill when we are just one of 5 authorities in Warwickshire? Coventry asked us to take 4,000, we're taking 2,360 from memory from the figures. That is fundamentally unfair. We have a duty to cooperate, but we do not have a duty to surrender to any and all comers. There are so many items which I could pull on, but I am first and foremost a ward councillor, and I represent Whitestone. In the previous iteration of the consultation, we at least had a proper infrastructure delivery plan which contained costings, deadlines, timescales, producers, who was going to be contributing, where it was going to go. In this, you have not afforded us that courtesy. I asked the question of officers, only to be told that at page 105 of our agendas, that 2 boxes going over leaf is an infrastructure delivery plan. That, ladies and gentlemen, is no plan. It is a summary of aims, it is not a summary of how you are going to achieve. And that is another fundamental thing which you will not achieve. As others residents in my ward have already said tonight, and I fully back them 100%, the infrastructure is critical, and you have not put any infrastructure in whatsoever to help alleviate the issues that you are going to be putting in my ward. You say that you have spoken and cooperated with other authorities. Wrong. I have it in black and white. You have not communicated with Warwickshire County Council at all about the plans to put in 621 houses in Gulf Drive. That is what I have had from officers at Shire Hall. And if that is what officers at Shire Hall are saying, how can residents have the faith and trust in you as the Cabinet and as a council that you are doing the best by residents? You are not. It is fundamentally flawed and unfair. And you deserve to be held to account for your actions, and you will be, ultimately, at the ballot box. There is no doubt about it, there is a trend that you are being held to account at the ballot box for your actions, and I hope it continues. But you are surrendering both on infrastructure and on land, and residents will be up in arms at what you are suggesting. They're here tonight in their droves. I have never seen a cabinet so full, and that is a strength and an indication of how angry people feel. You have, quite frankly, let the residents of this borough down. That is all I have to say.
Thank you. Carl Mayor.
Good evening from the Woodlands Action Group. First, can I say that the possibility of over 25,000 people being added to this borough is absolutely crazy. You cannot get about in traffic as it is, and with the infrastructure in this plan about as much use as a chocolate teapot, it will bring the borough to a standstill. Also, with all these Tory cuts affecting the George Eliot, how on earth will an extra 25 people impact hospital waiting times? No wonder a Labour councillor from Coventry wants to shut the George Eliot down. This council, in its response to the last round of public consultation, has certainly listened a lot more to the likes of Barton, Wilmore and Co. In fact, I would say they have bent over backwards to do everything possible to help developers.
The man in the street who will be affected by this new crazy local plan has been ignored as per usual. You, the councillors, should be looking after the interests of the residents of this borough. As it states in the NPPF, which Councillor Aldington always likes to quote, plans and decisions, this is on page 3.10, plans and decisions need to take local circumstances into account when achieving sustainable development. The local plan clearly doesn't. And as we all remember the outright lie on the Labour leaflet, Save the Woodlands, Vote Labour, I must say that the new figure of 14,000 houses proposed for this borough proves that this council is taking Coventry City's overspill of nearly 4,000 houses. I find this bemusing to say the least, and it basically means that although Coventry refused to release land from their greenbelt for their local plan, our council will release greenbelt in this borough in our local plan through the duty to cooperate, bending over backwards as per usual for greedy developers. The leader of this council on many occasions said he was not happy to accept the overspill from Coventry. This was another lie, as we can see from the plan now in front of us. I could go on for hours about this deceitful local plan, but cannot be bothered to waste my breath. I do know one thing though, the leader and the portfolio holder, Dennis Harvey and Danny Aldington, should resign with immediate effect for telling the council taxpayers of this borough lies. No questions?
No questions,
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
Surprise, surprise.
Alan Baxter.
Some tough act to follow now. Yeah, whichever way you cut it, we do need a local plan. That's a certainty. And, well, from a positive end, I was really pleased to see the Judkins site, a big parcel of land between the railway and the canal, included in this edition of the plan. That's been sitting there unused for years. And it's a good prime location near the town centre, although when it's built on the view of the waste processing plant next door will probably put a few people off. But it would be nice to see the plan broadened out around Judkins. I mean, what are we going to do with that entire site? You've got a great big mountain of clay there, which is still a tourist attraction. You still get young lads climbing to the top of it. There's some absolutely fantastic granite cliffs there which would knock spots off the mobile climbing wall that the Borough recently purchased. It would be a really good leisure facility if it could be developed in such a way for the future of the borough, and sadly that aspect of the site hasn't been included in this plan, and it would be nice to see it in there at this stage. Moving elsewhere, as you know, I'm a resident on the canal. You know, I was glad to see some clauses put in for the Gypsy Lane development, the Coventry Road development, and the Falklands Farm development, that kick back a bit of money to developing the waterways in the area, because they do need some investment, and they do represent quite a good solid tourist attraction that the area could use to draw a few people in to spend money in the local shops, hotels, retail parks, etc. And maybe, given what I said in a previous meeting about the Griff Arm, maybe that money from those developments could be funnelled into the Griff Arm rather than being given away to Canal and River Trust, who, if memory serves, just trousered the money from the sale of the Boot Wharf site and took it off to Milton Keynes. We didn't see any benefit of that money at all. So it would be nice to see that money kept in the borough with this. Other than that, it's, again, as everyone else has mentioned, it's one of infrastructure, and I believe roads and all that will be a Warwickshire County Council function. So I do have the question in my mind, you know, when do they get involved with this in support of the process? Because I can't really see it happening just yet. So I think the people of the borough need some reassurance as to when that's going to happen and what that infrastructure will look like before this can be rubber stamped. And finally, would this, would this the approval of this borough, would it go to a local referendum for the people of the borough to have the ultimate say-so?
Thank you, Mr. Baxter. Any questions for Mr. Baxter? Carl Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a resident of Bedworth, the plan made by this authority to build over 1,500 houses on the green belt and green land around Bedworth really does concern me. In particular, I'm concerned about the developments on the Woodlands, Hospital Lane and School Lane. Whilst I am in part in support of the Council's recommendations to build housing on brownfield sites and derelict land across the borough, the substantial majority of housing will be built on our precious green spaces. Building more housing on green areas will impose significant risks upon us and local habitats. The environment is important. It is of course one of the major things that keeps our local community a more sustainable and less polluted place. Mr. Chair, I did want to share this. It's a pledge made by the Labour Party during the 2015 general election, and you'll find it on page page 56 of your manifesto. It is as follows. We feel passionately about our local landscapes, our open spaces and wildlife. Land and nature are part of our common home and inheritance, and they contribute to our sense of identity. In a globalised world, our local environment provides us with a sense of place and belonging. How this plan ensures that we protect local landscapes, open spacing and wildlife whilst building on greenbelt land really does confuse me. Mr. Chair, yet again, this local community has had another promise broken by the Labour Party. Secondly, Mr. Chair, what really does concern me is how public services will cope. With an increasing population, looking at it in the long term, will a Bedworth child be able to go to one of the 2 secondary schools in Bedworth, or will they have to travel further afield to Coventry or Nuneaton? And what about the NHS? Will local GP surgeries be able to cope with the sudden surge of people wanting to use its services? What about transport? In Bedworth and Nuneaton, roads are already gridlocked at peak times. I dread to think what it'd be like with a higher population. It's okay saying in the infrastructure delivery plan that there needs to be more provision for school expansion and for new GP surgeries, but where is the money actually meant to come from to make way for this new infrastructure? As I briefly mentioned earlier, I am in part happy to accept the recommendations to build housing on brownfield sites and derelict land. However, there are some sites which do confuse me. For example, Cheverell Road, I hope I pronounced it right. The borough plan states that 13 houses will be built, I would presume on the old playground which is no longer in use. What I question is how you'll be able to fit 13 houses on there, 5 or 6 possibly, but not 13. Another example is Charity Docks, where the plan specifies 66 houses will be built, but again that questions me how you'll be able to build 66 houses on Charity Docks. And also what the borough plan does not specify very well is what type of housing will be built.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Any questions for Mr. Evans? Thank you. Isabel Pierce.
Thank you, Chair. Won't be long. I'm just really clarifying a few things, if it hopefully will be clarified. I'm Isabel Jakes and I'm a resident of Ash Green. As the Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Plan is being proposed and voted on tonight by the Cabinet, on behalf of the many constituents in Ash Green, and I'm assured many others within the borough, I'm hoping for clear clarification. The following 4 points have been clearly identified in the said plan, and if they haven't, why not? The first issue is the exact total number of houses in the plan. The second issue we'd like is the number put forward by Nuneaton and Bedworth, the number put forward by other authorities, and the number that Nuneaton and Bedworth have said they will deliver for other authorities. I wonder, and so do others, how this can be voted on tonight if, as been said previously, you're voting on the extra number of houses on Friday. It doesn't seem clear to us that you can vote on that tonight when you haven't voted on the numbers that you're going to take. So that's two things we'd like clarification on. We'd also like clarification that the letter that has been sent to the government and the reply that you have received from the government about the number of houses that Nuneaton and Bedworth Council have been asked to take from other authorities are included in the plan. These two letters to be included in the plan. Also, the fourth point is clarification that the total number of jobs estimated in the future relate to the number of houses being proposed in the local plan. Thank you, Chair, and I hope all councillors are clear on these and many other issues raised tonight. If not, they should seek clarification before they actually vote, remembering they are also democratically accountable to the residents in their wards. Thank you again. Thank you.
Councillor Tromans.
Thank you, Chair. More than 13,300 houses, extra houses, maybe 30,000 extra people. Disproportionate, to say the least, in a borough of our size. And unfair. Unfair not least of all because it puts Labour politicians in Coventry first and not the people of Nuneaton and Bedworth. So it's flawed. And we're not surprised. People only have to remember the way this has been cooked up. Secretly, behind closed doors, with a working party that wasn't open to public scrutiny, that closed people out, that didn't even keep minutes of the meetings. Tonight, we've had even more of it. There's a press briefing, but it's a secret one because opposition members weren't told. And when we were tipped off and tried to turn up and take part, we were excluded. Disgraceful. I'm not surprised that it is such a flawed document. And I'm not surprised that Labour Cabinet members didn't want people to see, because apparently all sorts of reassurances were made about detailed infrastructure delivery plans. But there are no solid detailed plans for infrastructure in that document, despite its size and weight. And let's explain to the public why that is. Because the ability to raise large sums of community infrastructure levy, SIL as you've heard it called, the money that they charge all these builders that are making a fortune out of digging up the greenbelt, the ability to charge that is dependent on having a properly adopted borough plan, like most other local authorities in Britain have, but these lot haven't produced for us despite more than 7 years. So it's a flawed document because it blights communities but brings us no closer to a fair and reasonable borough plan that could be signed off by a planning officer, by a planning inspector's office. And then we would be able to charge money for infrastructure levy. But at this rate, it will be too late. The houses will be built, the green belt will be forever gone, and we won't have roads, we will have gridlock and no schools, and we will know who is to blame. Again, you have failed.
Thank you, Councillor Tromans. Angela Reeve.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Angela Reeve. I live in School Lane. There have been some excellent addresses given tonight, and I'm very well aware that the points I raised have already been broached. But I make no apologies for broaching them again. And that is the inflated figure being used for housing requirements within the borough. Also the fact that there are sufficient brownfield and whitefield sites to be used, so green belt and green lung areas don't need to be encroached upon. This is further exacerbated by the hugely overblown figures from Coventry Council, resulting in Bedworth taking overspill. These figures are based on a floating student population, which has already been proven to be totally erroneous. Yes, there's a duty of cooperation, but there's also a duty of loyalty to your own borough.
Yes.
I would further endorse Councillor Cundaka in wanting a full discussion of the plan the targets and the needs of the inhabitants of the borough. One that is built on the needs of the community and not the overspill from Coventry, or facilitating the wallets and convenience of the building fraternity. I would further endorse that there is no need for overspill from Coventry, and the borough should not under any circumstances accept them. That's all I have to say.
Jim Foster.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's nice to see you all. Having left not long ago as the St Nicholas Ward Council. I was here in November talking about the Borough Plan because it was only at that time that you came out with the fact that you were adding you're adding one to the council who was sitting on the working party, which they didn't take up as it happened for reasons. I've personally been very, very close, having been a county councillor before. I've been very, very closely involved with the matters surrounding this since the 2006 local plan. And following that, the core strategy plan, which we put to consultation back in 2005. Let me just mention officers. I feel sorry for a few officers sitting around here tonight because I chase them daily, and the messages I got from them all the time was not saying they weren't agreeing with anything, but that it's political, and that it's the Labour councillors who are driving this thing, and I do feel sorry for them. I was hoping I wouldn't be back so quickly, but being so unhappy about the matters, I did join the Campaign for Protection of Rural England, and for the first time they have someone representing the Nuneaton and Bedworth area, and I'm doing that. If the Nuneaton and Borough Officer Plan of 2012 had been accepted, we'd have reduced the time that this plan would have been out by at least 5 years. As it is, as said by many people here, it's already 10 years late. And how many houses have we had built at that time? I was here only 2 weeks ago talking to the planning committee because on a single street in the St Nicholas ward, the Longshoot itself, there are now 5 cul-de-sacs with 1,000 houses in. And the plan is to try to get some money. I talk frequently to the county council, trying to get money to pay for roads which were on the original plan, the officer plan of 2012. They missed off on this one. What happened to that? It's gone. Let me bring up a couple of points that haven't been mentioned yet. On the local context, on the 2-1, Nuneaton and Bedworth is the smallest Warwickshire district with less than 8,000 hectares, yet has the highest population density of 1,592 people per square kilometre. It's crazy that we're building so many houses in a place that's already so crowded. Was that 3 minutes? Yes.
You were a councillor for a long time, so I believe you have 3 minutes. Any questions to Mr. Foster? No, thank you very much.
I have a lot more to say.
Right, I will come to Councillor Aldington now to present the report, which, just to clarify for somebody who spoke earlier on, is not adopting the borough plan, it's about putting the borough plan as it's proposed out to consultation and for people's opinions. Councillor Aldington.
Thanks, Chair. I was going to make that same point. The report before you seeks approval to consult on the borough plan for the final time before examination of the document by an independent inspector. The document itself is attached as Appendix A and is accompanied by an infrastructure delivery plan, sustainability appraisal and habitat regulations assessments, which are attached at Appendix C and D and will also form part of the consultation. It's been mentioned a couple of times, Chair, about the size of it. I'll perhaps come over to Kelly a little bit just to explain a bit more about that. But at the end of the day, that's what the council has to put it in this format, and it has to be this big. I understand it is a huge document, but we can't get away from that. We have to put it into this format. So perhaps Kelly in a little bit can just clarify that a little bit further. The content of the Borough Plan has been reviewed and updated following the consultation at the end of 2015, the details of which are outlined in Appendix B. It also addresses the request to take additional housing and employment development to ensure that the needs of the sub-region are met in full in line with the government's duty to cooperate. As outlined in 3.4 of the report, the Borough can only accommodate around half of the number it has been asked to take from Coventry, and so further discussions with the rest of the sub-region will be required so they can deal with the shortfall, basically. Just on a couple of figures, it's been mentioned that we're taking basically all of the housing overspill from Coventry. Warwick is taking 6,640 houses, and Rugby's taking 2,800 of that overspill. If approved this evening, consultation on the plan will start on the 30th of January 2017 and run for 6 weeks until the 13th of March. Just to clarify further, Chair, then the process will be that will then come back to Cabinet and full council, and then it will go to the inspector, planning inspector in May of this year, and then it's down really to their timetable as to when they hear that plan. So once it's been sent to the inspector, it's basically up to them to take the timetable further there, and it's probably October, November time this year that they will actually hear it. Details of the consultation proposal are outlined in Appendix E and include a series of drop-in events across the borough where residents will be able to view proposals in more detail and speak to officers about the content of the plan. We have done these previously, and also as well it was mentioned again about what it says and what it doesn't say, and I think Kelly, you're going to produce, or a guide is going to be produced which sort of summarises the key points really that hopefully will be a bit more digestible than what we've got here. There will be information points in each of the borough's libraries, as well as the town hall, and the consultation will be promoted via a range of media, so it'll be available on our website, etc. A lot of things have been said tonight, Chair. I did want to pick up on one thing, and Kelly, I just wanted to ask you a question, and it was around the consultation with the infrastructure providers. Can you confirm that we have had ongoing talks for many years with infrastructure providers such as the county council who deliver the road networks?
Yeah, we've got an infrastructure planning and delivery group which is chaired by the managing director here at the council. We also meet with them on an individual basis as well, and as you say, it's been an ongoing process during the course of putting the plan together. Yeah,
so basically what was said tonight was that there's a written submission that we have had no contact with the county council is actually false.
That can't be true.
I'd just like to say any questions the Cabinet do have. Kelly and Dale are here, will answer those questions. Kelly more so on the housing side of it, and Dale on the employment side. And I would just like to give my thanks on behalf of myself and the Cabinet to the officers for their continued hard work on this, because they have been nose to the grindstone on this for a long time, Chair. So I just want to add my thanks to those officers.
Thank you. Before I bring the Cabinet in, I would just like to correct something that has been said earlier. At a meeting several months ago, held in the Town Hall in Leamington, I believe it was. Yeah. And I know two people in this room were there, I believe. Yeah. I was the only council leader in Warwickshire to refuse to sign the joint agreement on the increase in housing, which proposed 4,000 houses. I made very strongly the point that this is an urban area already. It is not a rural area. Very little of this area is rural. We have got so many people, the density, I think somebody's referred to this, is very high already here. And I refuse to sign that agreement. There is a further meeting on Friday, that is at Shire Hall, which I believe is a public meeting, but I don't have control of that, which I shall be attending, at which results will come back of what sort of numbers are being now suggested for the different authorities. But just very clearly, I did not sign the agreement due in spite of sustained pressure from the other 4 Warwickshire districts, who are all controlled by the Conservatives, who were at that meeting, but I have to be fair, none from Coventry. I have had no direct contact with anybody at all from Coventry, officer or member, pressurising me or this council to do anything otherwise. The duty of cooperation in relation to the area as such is a legal requirement on us, and it has not come from any pressure on me or the Cabinet from people in Coventry. I have had no conversations, and people can call me a liar if they wish, but I have had no conversations with any councillor or officer in Coventry, and the only pressure on me at that public meeting was made by other council leaders around Warwickshire. In fact, one officer from another council was extremely rude because I would not sign the thing on behalf of Nuneaton and Bedworth.
Chair, can I just say on that as well, I think it's important that we've still refused to sign that, and you've still refused to sign that as leader. However, we did have a clause inserted into that, which was that based on our, as you've said, national government policy that we have to follow about the strategic housing market assessment, that we would take the number that we could physically take, which we are doing in here, which is the 2,300 houses. Other authorities, as I've already said here about Warwick, 6,640, just took those houses without any consultation, I understand, whereas you at that time refused to do that, and as a result, as opposed to 4,000 houses.
If I had agreed to sign it, we would now have 4,000 already in this document, but I wouldn't. Just on a secondary point, could I ask Councillor Aldington, how many times the Conservative group on this council have attended the Borough Plan Working Party on which they have members, places, in the last 2 years?
In the last 2 years, Chair, none.
None, thank you. Do we have any other questions from Cabinet members? No? Well, this is to go forward for consultation. Obviously, a lot of people will have strong views. A lot of people outside this room will have strong views. There's a population of 126,000 in this borough, and this will be available for people to be able to make their views known before it comes to full council, I believe, for adoption.
Cabinet first and then full
Cabinet
council.
and then full council for adoption later, bearing in mind any amendments there may be. So everybody will have another chance to make their views known. So thank you all for coming along this evening. And all those in favour of this now going to consultation? Okay, thank you very much. So that is, thank you again for coming along. If people want to leave the meeting now before we go on to the next item, we'll have 5 minutes break.